All right, so I have one correction and one apology, I think. So I mentioned earlier, he's already laughing. So I mentioned earlier about all of these high-tech people we have as advisory board members. And I said, but Elliot's kind of, investment guy and all that. So he pulls me over and he says, Ray, he says, are you kidding me? He says, I actually was doing coding for NASA back then. Is that right? That's right. Okay. So all of our advisory board members are high-tech folks. Then there's one other thing I just have to say. I just have to say this. So this fella, Sean, to my right, I'm going to say it, sorry. Sean he's number one, he's a walking encyclopedia. He's a one-stop shop. So I talked to Sean. I said, we need this. He said, done. I said, okay. I call him the next day. We need this. Done. I call him the next day. I need that. Done. So this, the flowers, I mean, absolutely amazing. And then I said, do you have the video presentation done? He says, Ray, done. Everything is done. So I'm waiting for him to say I can't do it. But I don't know if that day will ever come. But you got to stand up, fella. Okay, so this is, as Greg said, this is the moment. All right? And this is Francis's moment. And I'm going to talk to you from my heart, if that's okay with you, which I assume it is. Okay. So how did this all come about? So Dr. McKenzie, sitting right here, a year and a half ago, I give my books out to everybody. I don't know if that's good or bad, but I tell people it applies to students as well as adults. As a matter of fact, the book probably applies more to the adults than the kids. So I gave him the book, and I think he went home that night and read it, front to back. Right? He did. Next time I see him, he says, you have to meet Francis. I said, okay. And I knew Francis, obviously, because I read just about all the leadership books. And by the way, Peter Drucker. I started reading management books when I was like 12, 13 years old. And who do you think my mentor was? Peter Drucker, right? And so anyway, Dr. McKenzie says, you have to meet Francis. I said, okay. So he says, I'm going to set up a lunch. I said, go ahead. And so I did my research. I Googled Francis. Her bio was about, 8 pages on Google. And it took me maybe 20 minutes to go through the entire bio. And then I realized connecting all the dots, Peter Drucker. Peter Drucker was your mentor. Peter Drucker was my mentor, not literally, but I read all his books. I read so anyway, to prepare for the meeting with Francis, I got all her books. Well, not all of them because there's so many, but I got a handful. I read them, all right? I did my research. I did the bio. I did everything I can do. And then I realized this is going to be a real special meeting. I mean, my gosh. So anyway, tonight, I would say Dr. McKenzie takes on a lot of ownership because I don't know where the academy would be without this meeting that took place a year and a half ago. So anyway, Francis, you've been such a catalyst to this academy. And it happened when I sent you my book in advance of our lunch. And I walked into her office. And, it's like people say that at first, I hate the word 1 minute because that just came up not long ago, but maybe it's 2 minutes. And I walked in and she had my book on the corner of her desk. This is leadership, by the way. And she put a hand on the book. And she said, you are doing a great service to these communities. She had me. I mean, she just had me. So I said, you really mean that? And she says, if I didn't, I wouldn't have said it. At that very moment, the Leadership Academy was still in its early stages. I needed validation. I needed confirmation of proof of concept. All of that she gave me. So I might have planted a seed as the original founder, but you have to know you were the fertilizer. You were the fertilizer of this academy. And we're very proud of you. We very much share the same leadership principles. We do. All right? You've invested in me and the academy. And so my pledge to you, we're not going to let you down. And tonight is just the beginning. And we owe that in large measure to you. And I really mean that. Frances has been not only an inspiration to this academy, but when you look at her accomplishments, you first don't believe it, and you shake your head, and then you have to kind of hear it again. So I'm going to go down the list, but I'm just going to highlight, because otherwise we'd be here till 11 o'clock at night. So I'm just going to highlight, and a lot of you people might already know this from the invitation. CEO of the Girl Scouts from 1976 to 1990. And I believe, I might be wrong, but I believe during that time frame, Ronald Reagan, I think, offered Frances a cabinet position. I think so. And now this is leadership, right? Wow, a cabinet position. So what did Frances do? Sorry, I'm booked. I'm a CEO of the Girl Scouts. And, well, that's what she did. And I'm going to make a difference in this organization. And she did, by the way. Frances is the recipient of 21 honorary doctorate degrees. It's like... I know she doesn't blush, but I think you're blushing a little bit over there. So the founding president of the Drucker Foundation, Peter Drucker, who, if we all know who he is, he's the father of, modern management. He referred to Frances as America's greatest leader. This is from Peter Drucker, by the way. Recognized by Fortune magazine as the best nonprofit manager in America. And the nonprofit side of Frances is all about caring and giving back. And especially, obviously, nonprofit organizations. She's the author, this keeps going. She's the author of 3 autobiographies. She's co-authored 30 books in 30 different languages. I don't know how she had time to do all of this. Now, it gets better. Presidential Medal of Freedom. The Presidential Medal of Freedom, as we all know, is the highest civilian award in the United States of America. And she was honored by President Clinton at the time, and I think it was January 15th, 1998. I have the year correct. I might be off with the day. Fortune magazine named Frances one of the world's 50 greatest leaders. Now we have ongoing contributions. Chairman of the board of the Frances Hesselbein Leadership Forum at the University of Pittsburgh. Editor-in-chief of award-winning quarterly Leader to Leader journal. This is what she's doing now, by the way. Hesselbein, Global Academy for Student Leadership and Civic Engagement at the University of Pittsburgh, 2009. Advisory role to the United States Military Academy at West Point. Now, the commanding general, who I did talk to, by the way, couldn't make it here tonight. But, boy, I'll tell you, he sends his best regards. He said, I said she was actually, I think, an instructor and whatever at the academy, and I think it was for a couple of years. It goes on and on and on. And by the way, during the break, when Frances realized I was a pilot, she said, "Hey, how about we go skydiving?" I said, "No." I said, "No, we're not." I said, "As a matter of fact, I hung up my license a long time ago, so we're not going anyplace." She would probably, if I still was actively flying, she'd probably want to jump out of the plane. So here's so how do we best I've gone through a whole litany of accomplishments. So how do we best describe? So I'm going to describe. I was talking to Tiffany, who's an executive assistant, and we're talking about the timing and all of that. And Tiffany said, "Ray, Frances will be the first one there and the last one to leave." So we have a little video presentation. Who my one-stop stop guy made all these videos. I think you're going to love it. It's about 3 to 5 minutes, and it's kind of flashbacks on your life. So let's do that. Okay, so before we get into the actual award presentations, I've got 2 very short stories. I don't know if I mentioned earlier that I was cold calling Matilda Cuomo. I think I mentioned it, which I was, by the way. And so I reached out to her, and I sent her all the stuff on the Academy, and never once did I expect to get a return phone call until about a month ago or 6 weeks ago. I get a call. I pick up the phone, and it's from the governor's office. And I said, "Uh-oh, what's this about? Can you hold on, please? Matilda's on the phone." Oh, wow. So she gets on the phone. This is cold calling the former First Lady of the United States, of the New York State, right? So she introduced herself, and what I thought would have been a 5-minute conversation, I was on the phone for 1 hour. And if you want to meet another interesting person, Matilda Cuomo, it's as good as it gets. So she said, "Ray, I know Frances. I read your book. I know what you're doing at the Academy." By the way, she founded Mentoring USA. And she says, "I want to be at that dinner." And I said, "Matilda, you're in." And so she was going to be here tonight. They called about a week ago, all last minute, and said, "We apologize, Ray, but for personal reasons, she could not be here tonight. But she sends her best regards to you, by the way." Okay? So the next challenge, so I was cold calling her. The next is Bill Clinton, right? So my wife thinks I'm stalking Bill because we spend a lot of time at the same restaurant in Chappaqua. And you know what? I might be stalking him. I don't know. So anyway, I've gotten to know all the Secret Service guys around Bill. I know the communications director. I mean, I know everybody, right? And Oscar, yes, Oscar. So I'm working the network, and I'm getting within striking distance, right? And I said to myself, and I think my staff will acknowledge that, about a month ago, Bill was going to be here tonight, all right? I had it. I said, "Wow, this is amazing." And obviously he knows Frances, from the award and many other times. And so I said, "This is going to be like, wow." So we're going to have Matilda Cuomo, and we're going to have President Clinton here tonight. So Oscar called me. I won't give last names out because it's all kind of Secret Service kind of stuff. Very apologetically, and I don't give up, by the way. I mean, I persevered. I was sending emails and phone calls like every other day. I was concerned that the CIA was going to come to my home and lock me up or something. So anyways, so they called me and they said, "Look, Ray, we want you to know we really did our best, all right? But Bill cannot attend, but he does send his best wishes." And so I accepted that. I think it was sincere. I even pushed a little harder and say, "Well, tell whatever Bill is doing, tell him to do something else and come here." And I said to myself, he's the President of the United States. I probably ought to leave it alone at this point, so which is what I did. But I did reach out to these people, and they send their best wishes. So we want to now invite the student members up to the podium. got to do the guys, Francis. I was thinking of Lifetime Achievement Award. And then I said, well, it sounds to kind of be dated. So this award, which is done in lucite, and it's obviously the logo, the Academy and the mountain of the Everest mountain, is we call the Lifetime Leadership Award. And so someone will present that to Francis. And it's a lovely lucite. Yeah. Whoa! So, you're not crying, are you? I think you have tears in your eyes. Are you? Well, you should. But okay. Okay. The next award. So there's, the leadership award represents, her many years of accomplishments. But then the next award, which I came up with, and I said, we just have to do this. So the next award is the Francis Hesselbein Scholarship Fund. And so if someone wants to present that, and here we come. Yes, for you. So here's what you have to know with that award. You're going to affect, through your name and your accomplishments and your legacy, many, many future generations of leaders, because they will be receiving scholarship funding from your name. And that's a to me, very enduring accomplishment. So now Frances is going to come up, and she's going to say a few words, Frances.